Everything we know, the entire universe, might just be a simulation running inside a supercomputer. In this dream world of the imagination, anything is possible. Join us on the Simulationist podcast as we explore our culture of simulations.
Hello everybody, welcome back to the Simulationist podcast. This is the 185th iteration of the show, recorded on the 20th of March 2016. My name is Josh Trelevin.
Ryan Kirkby on the other side here. You were about to say December, though, weren't you?
I think I was going to say February.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
The way you paused for just a second there, I was like, oh, okay. How far back can I estimate he's going by the length of that pause? So it's like, okay, how far? I'm going to say December. Okay, it sounded like a December-long pause. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Just skip through all the months that have happened before this one.
It's been a whirlwind ride.
Mm-hmm.
Seth, how you been doing this week, Josh?
Oh, yeah. I've had a good week. Good. Played a lot of video games.
An observant week, because just as you got here, we're playing some board games with my daughter quickly before supper was ready, and you noticed something on the Big Bang Theory in the background.
Oh, shall we start out with,
It's not quite a conspiracy theory, as we like to usually start things out with, but it was an interesting point that you made.
Yeah, it's just every once in a while you come across a television show that features like one of the characters is an actor, and you never really think about it too well, or at least I never really think about it too much, except I noticed today is that when that happens, all the actors playing the character are always actors themselves, so they should, in theory, so what happened in the Big Bang Theory is that the character Penny is an actress, a struggling actress. So she's deciding which roles to take and which roles would be better for her career. And it was going through my head that I bet that Kaylee Cuoco Sweeting,
the actress who plays Penny,
would also probably have had at some point a conversation like that about roles she's decided to take or not take. So it's like I don't know.
That was the closest to the heart, least amount of acting she's had to do on that series.
It's almost like playing herself.
Which I noted afterwards, was it at the time fiance or husband proper?
Oh, in the show?
At the time of that episode, was he just fiance, or was he still just going out?
Yeah, this was from maybe a year or two ago, so I'm not sure if they were even engaged at that time.
But yes, her significant other then, Leonard, mentioned that I'm no actor, so I really don't know about these things, but shouldn't you try and get in there? And a lot of actors have gotten their part in such movies. And then it occurred to me, because you pointed this out, that him saying that would have had to have thereby been the most amount of acting to come to that. It's like, oh, I don't know anything about this acting industry, says the actor who has been in both hit sitcoms as well as movies before.
Yeah.
The actor who's played it was in the series Roseanne, as well as I know I had at least some bit parts in one Brendan Fraser movie, Blast from the Past, if I recall correctly. So yes, it's a weird, like no acting followed by the most amount of acting, from one line to another. Then in that.
Yeah.
So it's a very, very interesting, meta perspective you had on that.
And this is something I've noticed in films and TV occasionally, is that they'll decide to write, maybe it's writers who are at fault, I don't know, because they'll write a scene in which the actor, somebody is playing an actor or is doing acting, and they really oversell it. They're like, I'm an actor, and I'm doing this, and I'm a terrible actor. And I imagine that's a very hard line for an actual actor to take, because they're trying to act badly, and what does that mean to act badly?
So is there a difference, though, between actors who are trying to act badly and people who don't know how to act, just trying to act, and thus doing it badly?
I think there's probably a difference. And I think great actors could probably act as a bad actor better than bad actors can act just as a bad actor.
Oh, very intriguing. Because I have noticed a few times, watching shows over the years, where someone tries to sing and then they'll just be horrible, horrible singer. Oh my goodness! But the person who's the actor who's playing them knows how to sing. This person has trained at singing. So I've often wondered, could you tell if you weren't near tone deaf like I am? Could you tell, the difference between a singer singing badly and a non-singer singing badly?
You probably, yeah, I think you probably could, because I think this is the whole concept of there's a second level of expertise at a thing where you're so good that you can recognize and imitate someone who's really bad at it. So that's like
because I can tell in many board games when somebody's purposefully not playing to their potential.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you took a dive on that one. So I can tell the difference between a bad gamer and a good gamer playing badly.
Yeah, and I've seen people play poker this way too, or like where like an unskilled person will get a lucky break and they'll play a hand that they shouldn't have played, and the pros around the table are like, "What are you doing? What the?" And then they win. And
I remember, yes, my old roommate Les, like 4 days out of 5 when he was playing his online poker, he could make money, but once a week there'd be, as the term goes, it's a donk call, because you're playing like a jackass, you're a donkey. And so you did everything wrong, but somehow managed to win the pot by sheer random fluke of the random draw going in your favor on the river. It's just like, oh my goodness, the sight of him, because I suppose if there's one flaw for Les when he was playing poker, is that he played too well from, I guess, a mechanical standpoint. He always did, this is the better odd. I played this game here. I go bow out there. And so he never got the luck working in his favor because he never, I guess, allowed for luck to be in his equations.
Sure.
Which is not a bad notion.
If you play thousands of games, then even the greatest luck will just gradually eat away and it'll be level out to it, averages out.
Well, so that's the thing, is luck will eventually fail you. Knowing the odds will always help you. So he was playing better than, the guys who wound up beating him on that one hand. Yeah. But on that one hand, it wasn't helping him out at all. So it was a very interestingly weird standpoint for him, seeing the good person lose to the bad person, because although their styles seemed like they might have, converged, it was rather quite different. It only hit at that one, point where, it would be otherwise parallel lines. So I suppose, yes, you just have to get more knowledgeable about it to see the difference between good going bad and bad suddenly lucking out.
I think so, yeah.
So then I guess the key for those singers who sing badly is every once in a while they'll mess up and sing a perfect note. A person who doesn't know how to sing would never hit a note like that. You must secretly know how to sing. Mm-hmm. So yeah, so I found that to be a very interesting note that you made as we were watching there. So
it's also like one other time it comes up is when people try to fake an accent, like especially we can hear it because we speak English as our native language, but if we hear like an English speaking person, like someone from Canada or the U.S. trying to imitate like a foreign accent, but they're basically speaking perfect English and they're using words that probably they shouldn't know. I think that's a fake. I think they're actually a native speaker.
Well, the trick to that is you just keep them up on the accent, because over time all accents will eventually degrade down into a Scottish accent.
Yeah.
So if like whatever accent they have eventually starts working its way towards Scottish, it's not a real accent. Whereas if they keep it, that must be true.
Yeah, if it stays roughly the same.
Now this does, however, fail upon people trying a Scottish accent. Although I have noted sometimes when people try to do a Scottish accent and they're not knowledgeable enough, they will occasionally wind up hitting a Newfoundland accent. And I don't know how you managed to do that, but apparently that's how it goes. Yeah. So yeah, weird little notes on acting, I suppose.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah.
But aside from watching, bits of Big Bang Theories, you're playing board games with me and my daughter. What have you been up to this week, Josh?
Oh, well, mainly, video game-wise, Minecraft. Oh, here's a funny thing. Here's something that happened to me.
Did it end in misfortune?
Yeah. Remember last week we talked about having a big storm and stuff?
Yes. Oh, nice big storms here on the island.
Yeah, well, during that storm, our power went out at the house, and I was playing Minecraft at the time, and just as the wind started picking up, and I was, looking out the window, I was like, I should probably back up my game right now, because this looks like... but I've ignored that thought. I was like, nah, I'll play along.
If you're gonna play your game, do a weekly backup of the world you're on.
Yeah, I should. But yeah, so the power did go out, and I lost. Well, I didn't lose, fortunately. But my game did get corrupted, like my save file. So I was like, I spent like almost a whole day.
And this is the world you've been playing since like the 1.6.
Yeah, it's like a multi-years old world. It's like multiple gigabytes, the save file. So I was like, yeah, I don't want to lose that. Many countless hours of playing on this game on Minecraft.
Easily triple digits, maybe into quadruple.
Yeah, 1,000 hours. It's possible.
Oof. So yeah, but you managed to get everything back.
Well, that's the thing. I spent a long time. I looked up on the internet like how to restore your game. I had to do a little trick that they recommended with generating a new world, then grabbing some files from that. But ultimately, I did get it all back.
Ooh, file grafting.
Yeah.
Ooh.
And I managed to get my inventory restored, which that was another thing. I had to go into I had to download an NBT editor.
Oh.
NBT is the format that they store not everything in the game, but things like inventories, a few other statistics that they record for mobs and stuff, and for the player, like your speed is recorded as NBT data for some reason, like in your position.
Just in case they want to like teleport you somewhere and conserve momentum, so it's always your. Yeah. Oh, you were moving that way. Woo!
I don't know if they conserve momentum when they. I think teleport just kills your momentum. Just the
well, then why would
command.
they record your momentum in some sort of inventory data?
Well, in case you can save your game while you're falling or something.
Yeah. So it'd be like, otherwise you'd have a system set up where you'd buy like, oh no, I'm going to fall to my death, I better save it just before I hit the ground?
You could actually, yeah. You could, if you have an NBT editor, these things don't, like Mojang doesn't just give them to anybody, but people have sort of cracked it, and it's not complicated code
once you're able to crack it open.
Yeah. Yeah, but yeah, in theory, that's one thing you can do, is if you're falling into some lava or something, well, let's see, how would you do this? Because you can't actually delete, you need an editor to delete the lava, which you could also get. You can get like a level editor like MC Edit, just replace the lava with water.
A bucket of water will do that too, by the way.
Yeah, or give yourself a bucket of water. But then you'd still have
the bucket of water just before on top of the lava. Oh, okay, there we go.
I don't think it won't play unless there's a block nearby that you can hit it against. But
oh wait, it won't go on top of another liquid?
I don't think so.
Oh, I've never actually tried. I'm gonna have to go onto my game later on and figure out how that one works.
Yeah,
which will be weird because it'll be the first time in like a week and a half I've logged on to Minecraft myself.
Yeah, in theory, you could exit, save your game, download the NBT editor, open up your player file, and you'll find a value for your speed and position, and then you can actually change it. Maybe if you do a reverse speed, so you're flying up in the air, and that'll buy you some more time.
Just angle yourself up, and then as you're landing the next time again, you save and repeat.
Nice parabola.
And then you wind up just doing parabolic arcs as you wind up until you finally hit land.
Yeah.
Dude, if you are that dead set against losing all your stuff, by all means, man, go for it. It just seems a little excessive.
I think that's also where there's a toggle, or a 1 to 0 or whatever game mode toggle that puts you in creative mode.
Yeah, that might be the easier way to go about it, and then just kind of swim home through the lava.
Yeah.
With your tail between your legs.
This is also how people give themselves thousands of hearts too, for
I've got ways of doing that involve mods. Not thousands of hearts, but get yourself 1 or 2. Very big thing. It feels very nice to get that.
Yeah.
I need some nether stars though, so you're gonna have to make some journeys.
But this is a game world that I've never cheated on. I don't have in creative mode. But at this point, I have modded it. I've added in blocks and stuff, and I've changed villages around.
Yeah, you got stuff like rotten flesh blocks and all that.
Yeah. So I guess I don't know if I don't personally count my mods as cheats because they don't actually help me play the game any better.
And from everything I've seen for your mods, they're not cheaty. They're not abusive. They're not push button B to get a block of diamond.
Yeah, the closest thing I think I have is I have cows drop more leather.
Well, cows are pretty big.
Yeah, so I figure like a cow should, at the very minimum, a cow should always drop enough for boots. So there's always at least 4. And then,
well, that makes sense because like you'd have to have some pretty big feet to require 4 cows worth of leather.
Exactly, I think. And then at the most they drop 8 because that'd be a nice. You can build a leather jacket out of 8 leathers. So that.
What if you had like a passive bolt gun, so that you can say that you like killed the cow peacefully, so that's why you've got so much more leather, as opposed to like hitting it with a sword or an axe, which could very well damage the potential leather to be.
Well, I don't know if I'd add that to Minecraft, but it has occurred to me over in the time I've played the game that basically any method you have for executing animals is inhumane.
Pretty darn violent.
Because like you can crush them, you can drown them, you can
set them on fire so that way they'll produce like steaks when they're done.
Yeah, set them on fire and then they run around screaming. That's
yeah.
So but I mean, if you have a sharpness sword, like a diamond sword with a sharpness enchantment, you can kill them in one hit, which seems probably the most.
Trust me, I got Tinker's weaponry going on. I only need 1 hit for almost anything. With a good running speed and a jump, I can get rid of an Enderman in a single hit.
Yeah.
But you can't look them in the face, otherwise they'll teleport out of the way. That's annoying.
Some kind of stunning device.
Well, it just strikes me as like a lot of the mods work a similar process with minerals. It's like, okay, with a like a feather touch sort of thing, instead of getting just like this is the ore, you process it down to like a I believe most of them start off with an grinding it up into like a dust powder, and then you refine the powder to get to 2 things. And then there are some mods that with additions of some very complex machinery and like multi-block structures will get you 4 or even 5 times return. So that way you can get like 5 times proper efficiency out of your ores.
Okay. Yeah.
So why not something similar for your animals? Some sort of horrible multi-block structure you lead a cow through, you flip a switch and like the cow gets dissected, or teleported apart layer by layer or something, where you get more products out of them.
Yeah, well, that would be kind of cool.
Hint for anyone out there who's looking for a concept for a mod. I mean, like, it's the same principle as a lot of other mods, just biological as opposed to mineralogical. So, woo!
Yeah. Once I finally got it, restored. Oh, and I lost 3 chunks.
That's not bad.
1 chunk didn't really matter. It was, I think I lost a couple torches. It was just nature. 2 of the chunks were part of a pretty major building, but that building probably covers about 30, 40 chunks because it's that long. Did I tell you about my long building for housing villagers in it?
Oh, yes. You had the long building to help offset the northwest passage of most creatures.
It's got a row of doors like on a diagonal northeast to southwest.
Okay. Well, that's not bad. I mean, if you lost any villagers in that chunk, I mean, they'll regenerate because you got so many doors, right?
Yeah, there was probably 1 or 2 villagers in there. So I lost 2 parts of that building, which I had to rebuild. And I've thought about it, like I was thinking, I should do something cool, like make it look like a patch or something, like like a tornado came through and I had to rebuild it.
Which by the tornado itself is a mod of its own.
Yeah, it would be. But I ended up just building it exactly like as if nothing happened.
Fix that up. No one knows the difference.
Yeah. But the other thing I did, but after because I have that for a villager breeder, so I was like, that's really good. And I'll tell you some of the results from it.
Oh, okay.
So it did not work as well as I think, because I think the game. It decides that there's going to be a village there, and it doesn't. You have a village.
I have a nice
mod,
small mod that you
that,
hit
right?
the F3 and it tells you about the village, how far you are away, where the heart of it is, how many villagers, and what your reputation is.
Yeah.
As well as a village ID number. Although I've never found that to be particularly helpful. It's just like, oh hey, yeah, this is village ID, something like 16-digit number.
Okay, yeah, because my world now probably has like 1,000 villages in it.
Oof.
That I've gone and visited, so the game would have generated them. Although I had to delete my village file in the save games, so every time I go to a new village, the village mobs are still there, but the game will have to regenerate a village based on that. which probably won't change anything, but I'm interested. I'll have to keep an eye on it to see if anything does change.
Weird quirks of regeneration.
Yeah.
Dig it.
And it's not like the buildings themselves won't regenerate. It's just that the perception of the villagers that this counts as a village will change, but they might move to a different. The center could change to a different door or whatever.
Weird.
Well,
it takes all the doors and then finds out the average location of them all, and that's the center.
Okay. Well, that's weird then, because this building, it's a long building, and it goes, from one corner to the other corner. And a lot of villagers, which is good, which I wanted, generated sort of towards the south end of the village. And they seem to think that they seem to be sort of centering on a center point.
Well, in that case, I definitely recommend you get the copy of the mod, so that way you can find out for yourself exactly where it counts as the center of it, and what if they're, because sometimes from what I've noticed is some doors will be like 2 squares down from another door, and yet not become part of the town. Like if you don't have a proper chunk loader for everything to be loaded up all at the same time, the game will have a hard time figuring out the center of a town because of where all the chunks, this one isn't active right now, so it doesn't count. So you can't have those really massive metropolises count as just one city. You'll have to have multiple tiny sub cities going on.
Well, this is another thing. I told you, I don't cheat on this world. I don't look at coordinates for this world. No coordinates. I don't know, maybe it's just me being stubborn.
It's just a quirk, man. Just a quirk.
But yeah, I wouldn't want a mod that just was here's the numbers, the raw numbers for where the village is. Although
I found it useful for learning more about the nature of villages.
I would use it in a creative world, yeah.
So yeah, you might want to have some fun testing out just to see what it qualifies a village as, so you can learn more about what a village is like. Because I won't lie, the wiki is nice. But it is far from comprehensive.
Okay.
So yeah, there's only so much you can learn from reading.
But it is what I want it to be, which is it's a lot of doors in a fairly compact area, and it looks nice, so that I don't feel bad about keeping the village trapped in these horrible conditions, or it just a square of all doors, like some people do for a village.
Yeah, it's a little.
So it does what I want it to, but although I wanted them to sort of spread all the way along the row, and I tried establishing 2 villages. I thought, well, maybe this could be a village down at one end, and this could be a different village up at the top, even though they're all connected by doors. But every time I move the village all the way to the other end, they always come back.
Yeah, there's some weird bits about that I've had some issues with.
Yeah. But the other thing I did after that, is to continue with my adventures in Minecraft, is then I built another nice 4-story building. 4-story. Oh, because there's 5 villager types, I think.
Yeah, well, standard 5, and then a lot of mods will add in 1 more or 2 more.
Okay, so yeah.
Sometimes they overlap. I've got weird villagers playing 2 roles in some areas.
Okay, yeah. And I think, one point, later versions of... I'm on 1.7, so later versions of Minecraft will add in other various professions that the villagers can have. But I built, a nice big building that has, little booths that I put all a whole bunch...
A trade depot.
7 of each type of villager, so 7 times 5, 35 villagers. Each floor is for a different type, except that farmers and butchers, I think, they share a floor.
Yeah, it's a weird mix for them. Agriculturalists.
I just sort of, I don't know. I didn't want to do a 5-story building, so...
Don't be afraid, Josh.
Yeah, so now I have this fancy, basically a mall that I can go in and...
Well, that's one of the things I really do want to have some fun with when I get going back into Minecraft and build my little wonderful, sanctuary. Is coming up with a spot just to put villagers in, so that I can get trades going and have a nice little trade depot.
Yeah.
But I want to make it look nice, as opposed to just making it a spot to store a villager, because they're otherwise wandering around causing trouble for me.
Yeah, and that's what I tried to do too. I did it nice, the base is sort of stone brick, and then the walls up above are colored wool depending on the floor.
Oh, very nice.
So each, like the purple coated guys go in a purple walled floor.
Okay, that makes sense.
So
yeah,
I guess. And then nice, like lots of lighting to make sure that there's no mobs spawning.
Yeah, that's one thing I still have to get used to because I'm working in a slightly broken world on mine.
Yeah, and I put in a little bedroom for myself in there. So,
so they can watch you sleep at night.
Well, I've walled it off. From
okay, so it's not creepy.
Yeah.
Fair enough. That's pretty
Although,
boss.
I sometimes will, like, I like to put beds in all the houses in villages, like when I find a natural village. So sometimes I will just go to sleep, and the village will be walking over the bed while I'm like trying to sleep here, guys.
And yet you can still manage to fall asleep.
The game lets you. It won't let you if there's a zombie nearby, but if there's a villager walking on your bed, or sometimes like if I have a horse, like I'm going camping or something, going on a long exploration trip, I bring a bed with me.
Oh, that's right. You don't have magic. You don't need to magically hop around the landscape like I do. You got to take a horse.
Yeah, because I'm not a cheater.
It's magic. I earned it.
Well, anyways,
Also, it's a lot of fun. I feel like a ninja.
So I'm like, oh, well, gotta, the sun's going down, gotta plop down this bed, gotta go to sleep, and okay, let the horse out there, he'll eat some grass, and then hop in the bed, and the horse just jumps on the bed with me.
Yeah, a little awkward, but keep you warm at night.
Yeah.
So, that's okay. I don't judge. Out loud.
Yeah.
But yay, you managed to save your world with minimal loss.
Yeah, I saved my world, and yeah.
The story of how Josh saved the world. Not this world, his world.
Saved my own, my world.
It still counts. Start small, work up.
So yeah, that was my adventures in Minecraft. And I played D&D. I mentioned Roll for Initiative. I think I always mention it.
Yes.
That happened yesterday.
And did you DM or did you play?
No, I just played. Yeah, we didn't have enough players for me as a DM. I hope we have listeners in Victoria, and if you're not already coming out to Roll for Initiative, I hope you think about coming out, because then I'll have a chance to. Maybe I'll get a shot at it.
I would like to myself, but I'm so busy during those hours.
I know, yeah. But we had a fun time. Alex is always good. Runs good, fun games. So.
Always a good master of the dungeon.
Yeah.
Dig it.
And let's see. I played this week. I played a bard, and that was kind of fun.
They are a very interesting class to play in that they're not the big powerhouse, but when role-playing is involved, they do tend to take a good forefront.
Yep.
So it's an interesting determination to see how much a person hates or loves a bard class in general, and you can tell their playing style on that, to at least some degree. The bard litmus test of Dungeons and Dragons. As for me, though, I haven't played any Minecraft. I spent a lot of time this week trying to fix up my computer.
Oh, yeah, so lots of computer troubles.
Admittedly, my little netbook is getting a wee bit old, and I worry, because I like having it. There are times it's like, okay, I just don't want to be on my computer, my normal computer. I'll come out here to the living room, put on a music channel, get some books up here for notes, and just do some writing. But if everything's going to wind up freezing up and I'm going to wind up losing my save, like the stuff I've been writing, I don't want to do that. So I've been trying really hard to fix things up.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I've narrowed it down to only a few issues, most of which I can circumvent by doing things properly. On the other hand, I had a chance to upgrade it to Windows 10 when Windows 10 first came out, and I'm still kicking myself for not doing that. For some reason, I decided to try maybe I'll stick with Windows 7 Starter for a little bit longer, and it's been biting me in the backside like some sort of crazy piranha ever since.
And they won't let you upgrade now?
I need to do some updates before I can meet the requirements for properly upgrading to Windows 10. But every time I try and apply those updates, it can't seem to find them. Like I have a little task manager running in the background, and I say, okay, update with this one particular update right here. Because I can select, just all updates or one particular update. And it doesn't send anything out onto the internet. It doesn't say, hey, go to this website and find the information to, apply the update. and then just sits there for like 20 minutes, pretending to search for nothing, and it's just like, you're not fooling me. I can see right here. It's showing there's been no, inbound, outbound internet connection activity, and you're trying to search for it. So now I have to figure out what the heck's up with that issue.
Yeah.
Weird. But hopefully I should still meet the requirements and be able to upgrade it when I can get those updates applied. So yay, maybe. I hope. But I have been able to get going on at least some progress on all my various Ravenloft notes. I am planning on writing up something thanks to the new DMs Guild.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
But there is so much so much I want to do in some areas. There's the land of Haslan, which takes place, from the Forgotten Realms as well. So it actually works out for the 2 intellectual properties they can let us work with right now, meeting that wonderful confluence. And I keep finding it's like, okay, thanks to the Mistopedia. Oh, thank goodness for that one. It shows okay, I want to look up this NPC. The stats can be found in this book here, this episode, this issue of Dungeon Magazine, and over here like that. So I've done a lot of backtracking and searching and reading up, notes. And there's a lot of good stuff to be done. Don't ask me how. I have a copy of the 2nd edition Monstrous Compendiums for the Ravenloft stuff. And there is just so much good reading there. Mm-hmm. And I'd like to apply it in and do stuff because the nation of Haslan is a red wizard sort of territory. The guy the Dark Lord who's controlling it is a red wizard of Thay, or at least was before he got mystified. And he's one of those weird villains that despite being an evil, horrible monster, you still feel sympathy for. I guess I'll try and get a nice short story on him there. He fell in love with another wizard. Unfortunately, it was a gay relationship. The other guy did not reciprocate, and so he and all his bully buddies wound up tattooing the guy Haslick with the wrong sort of gender-based tattoos, effectively marking him as a lady. And that kind of, he doesn't like that. Now he wants to get rid of all. He doesn't see it as wizards being the problem, but the people that also happen to be his own race. So his goal is he doesn't even care about getting out of his little gilded cage in Ravenloft. He just wants to kill all of his Mulani people across the entire cosmos. And he's fine with doing that from where he's sitting right now.
Okay.
But he has to get rid of his body and get a new one, so that way he's not, a Mulan himself. And then he's got to figure out a way to kill everything throughout the cosmos on a very select, scale of what kind of humans I want to get rid of. So he's an evil villain, but you can kind of feel for him as to where he's coming from. Not, agree with him, but at least you can understand. And so I find that really brings me in, to the concept of, I want to do stuff here. And at the time of the timeline, it should be 750 on the Barovian calendar, and by 775 should come the time of unparalleled darkness, when horrible, horrible things are happening everywhere around Ravenloft. This is not a one apocalypse event. This is where everything crumbling about into a horrible nature. And so I'm thinking, what better than by the time that goes around than, the Mulani genocide in Haslan. So it's wow, man, I could really write a good story on that.
Cool. Yeah.
Unfortunately, the last 3 editions of hardbound books have forgotten, for some reason, to put in how Haslick closes the borders of his territories. So I had to do some searching around on the internet just to figure out a basic information of how this Dark Lord operates. Long story short, the war begins with a large impenetrable wall of fire surrounding his entire nation. No one gets out. However, some Dark Lords can close the domains, and some cannot, and some have restrictions. Haslick has a restriction in that he has to renew that barrier every hour. He does have an aversion to sleep, so he does only need to sleep a few hours every few days. So when he puts up the wall, that will mark the beginning of something like, we'll say, 80 hours he has to commit the entire genocide in before he will be forced to fall asleep and let the border lapse, whereby people can then escape. So it's a very interesting concept. For having a war, it'll have to be an 80-hour genocide.
Okay.
And I mean, the concept of that is like that seems like it was almost meant for like a Dungeons and Dragons adventure, man. It's like you have to stop the bad guy and all his horrible evil creation forces from destroying an entire group of people. You can't get out. No one else can get out. But if you delay long enough, you can force him to rest and then have the people make their escape into other nations out of his reach. So it's like, wow, that's actually a really interesting concept for a D&D adventure.
I could see it, yeah.
Yeah. In addition to like all the horrible monsters he'll create, because Haslick is a chaotic evil person. And for a lot of people that just means, he gets to be a jerk and do whatever he wants. But Ravenloft is a little bit more subtle in that people have motivations and reasonings and philosophies. Haslick is chaotic on his alignment because he does not trust institutions. For a person who was a Wizard of Thay, he was betrayed by his colleagues. He is thus very much averse to, organizations. So for him, his war must be intensely personal. It will not be a bunch of armed soldiers marching down the corridors, bringing out any Mulani they can find and slitting their throats. It must be done with precision and a very personal nature. So that makes for. I mean, you can come up with like a half dozen different ways on how that's going to go about. And it also brings about to the notion he's not a dumb man. So all the institutions in his nation are likely there to serve a purpose, and he only really has one purpose. It's genocide. So the two main organizations is, in the last 5 years, he has opened up an academy for wizards. He was fiercely anti-wizard, now he has the Red Academy. So that's an organization that must help, for some reason, fulfill his personal needs and goals. So whatever his plans are, it must involve a lot of low-level wizards, or the magical power they can therefore produce. How? I haven't figured that out yet. I got to deduce that out. It's a riddle I must solve. The next is the church. It's a church of the lawgiver, the Bane worshippers from the Forgotten Realms. Bane's dead. They still get spells in Ravenloft, though. It's a bit of a weird thing. But all of their tenets basically say that Haslick is the Bane version of the Antichrist. He's against organizations, he's a spellcaster, and he's, a hedonist. So, he is basically the antithesis of everything they worship. And so, why has he allowed them basically, a large amount of control over the nation? Well, I guess one is he's never been big on, running the nation himself. He kind of wants to do his experiments and have his fun with his magical studies. But I'm thinking he's going to use that as an excuse to wage the war so that he looks like he's in the right. Even if it winds up causing a war with the neighboring nation of Nova Vasa, he's going to go to war against the church and make himself look like the good guy somehow. So I have to sit down, I have to read the notes of what everyone planned. I have to solve the riddle of the 80-hour genocide.
Okay.
And I am loving the research on this. Maybe it's just me and who I am, but to solve the riddle of this villain and all the things is I will assume everything that's set up is all set up for a reason. Now all I have to do is find out how the pattern goes, see the bigger picture, and then relay that into a wonderful adventure. Which, fingers crossed, I'll hopefully be able to do. A master adventure that everyone shall enjoy.
Well, I hope you do, yeah.
Other than that, though, I haven't had a chance to do too much else. I've just been looking and researching and reading. And so it's oh my goodness. Although I did get a chance to watch 2 movies this week. First one, Barbarella, Queen of the Galaxy, starring Jane Fonda. It's a nice 98-minute long flick from the 70s. Now I find it a little weird because it's got a PG rating, and yet there's nipples within the first 5 minutes. Not often something you see in a PG rating. The movie is apparently based off of a comics thing from over in Europe. The general plot is lady in space gets imperiled and in danger, gets rescued, thanks the rescuer with sexual activities, never shown on screen, and has to find a new set of clothing to replace the one she lost in her apparel.
So that's her motivation for the movie? To find new clothing?
No, it just happens to be the more practical motivation. The proper more motivation is that she is in the year 40,000, and Earth has become a wonderful, peace-filled thing. Like, if you want to find a weapon, you have to go to, like, the museums. Like, there are no weapons anymore. Nobody needs them.
Okay.
All the stuff that generates the need for war and all that has been, like, wiped out. Humanity's better than that. However, the top scientist, Duran Duran, and that is literally his name, I am not making that up. It is not played by anyone from the band Duran Duran, but the scientist's name is Duran Duran. Has created a positronic ray which could be utilized in the usage of war, not just like fighting, but actual war level. This is like a tank sort of weapon, right? He has gone missing on the on a neighboring planet, a non-Earth planet. And given her abilities and skills and the fact that she's in the area, she gets recruited to go save the day, and they teleport her some weapons from the old museum of warfare. And she has to go save the day. And, as I said, she loses her clothes, gets in danger, rescues with sex, repeat until the end of the movie.
Okay.
Now, it's not a bad movie.
Yeah.
But I can't help but feel disappointed in it. Jane Fonda, who was I don't care what other people say, she was always a very good actress, still is.
I don't think I've seen anything with Jane Fonda in it.
Well, you'd have to go a little bit before your time.
Yeah.
She's a good actress. It's a Dino De Laurentiis film. Like, that name's got some weight with you, I trust.
Nope.
Dino De Laurentiis? No? No? Nothing? You're killing me, Josh. You're killing me. Dino De Laurentiis, he's done good films. Not a Stanley Kubrick level sort of guy, but still a guy who produces decent films.
Like what?
No, trust me, you wouldn't have heard. But here's the thing, though. Long story short, it felt like the movie could have been so much more. It felt like this was just something that not as though someone had to fill out because it was a contractual obligation, but there was no way they could make the movie they wanted, so they just made a movie that everyone would be okay with and then be done with it. There was some interesting profundities in there, like Barbarella's, her ship, her spaceship has shag carpeting. It's the 70s. Apparently, they thought shag carpeting would last forever. But she's in a zero-gravity situation for a lot of the time, so the shag carpeting is on the floor, the ceiling, and the walls. Because if you're floating around in zero gravity, you're just as likely to bump against the wall and the ceiling as you are the floor.
Or how do you know which one is the wall and ceiling?
There is artwork and a display screen and a spot like a cockpit to sit in, so there's like a definitive floor.
Okay.
Yeah. And once gravity kicks in, then it really shows up.
Oh, I see.
Oh, by the way, the initial scene where she's getting out of her spacesuit is the worst zero gravity scene I've ever witnessed. This was apparently before. Well, you know how they do simulate zero gravity in movies nowadays. They put everyone on a plane and the whole entire set's up there. If it's not CGI, and then what they do is they put the plane into a free fall condition for a few minutes, and then they record during there when you are effectively weightless. Now, this apparently was filmed before that became a technique, or at least viable as a technique.
Okay.
And so it was basically her on the ground pretending she was in zero gravity as she got rid of her spacesuit. And it was just like, I would like to say it was not badly done given the technological limitations, but I have seen a lot more done for zero gravity done a lot better. So this is a very much like the worst zero gravity I've ever seen.
Yeah.
But, you got to do what you got to do, right? And there's an angel in there. They don't always call him an angel. They Pygar, but he's like
an angel from like heaven and stuff.
No. The
alien angel.
Alien sort of angel. You know the Hawkmen from like the Flash Gordon series.
Yeah.
Yes, he's like that. He's like in a like a bird morph, like he's got wings. That's kind of his thing. In the end, he rescues Barbarella and the evil tyrant of the city Tau from sinking into the horrible muck that's been causing all the city is evil because they have to do evil because the weird ooze that they're sitting on feeds off of it.
Mm-hmm.
So if they don't keep feeding it, they'll all die. And then things go wrong, and most of them die anyways, whatever. But the evil tyrant has banished the angel Pygar to a labyrinth, blinded, and destroyed his desire to fly. He can't fly not because she did anything to his wings, but because she destroyed his desire or his want to fly.
Okay.
And in the end, he still saves her. He's still blind. He never recovers his sight throughout the movie. And she does stuff to him, she tortures to him, she basically crucifies him, and he still rescues her in the end. And Barbarella asks, well, why did you rescue her? She did all this horrible stuff to you. And he replies, an angel doesn't remember these things. An angel cannot remember these things. And I think that may be the most intensely, powerful thing I've ever heard about an angel. Because, the concept of them, doing good, on the behest of a divine benefactor makes, I guess, a sort of sense.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like how could they possibly be, these paragons of good in the face of, the people that would hurt them, like demons and, I imagine humanity would be rather nasty to angels on default, just because we're not anywhere near as perfect as them. Anything we try and do would be considered rather coarse or crude or even insulting. But how could the angels not become just like angry, bitter, resentful, bunch of horrible people themselves in the process? And I've seen stuff like you played the Diablo series of games, and the angels aren't really good from our traditional perspective. They are anti-demon, but they're not pro-humanity. And so that's one way of presenting it. But the concept of an angel not being able to remember the sins of others and thus always doing the right thing because they cannot have the concept of you have done evil, now I will just ignore you because you're not good enough. The angel cannot remember your misdeeds. That's
kind of cool.
I may have to sit down and rethink my concept of the angels the next time I put one in a game or write about one or anything like that, just to put that as a concept. So if nothing else, the movie Barbarella has helped me learn the psyche of the angels themselves.
Well, to me, that's one way of... that's one cool way if you do a fantasy setting of differentiating, what's an angel like? And there's a couple other different...
Well, it's a way of giving an angel free will, without having them wind up becoming bitter-hearted horrible beings. Because the other option for an angel doing good all the time is that they have no free will. They always have to do the right thing. And if you always have to do it, you really don't have free will.
Yeah, but my concept of good, and this could be a different sort of creature, but my concept of true goodness has always been sort of an enlightened version of that, because you have to know what consequences of things are going to be in order to choose the correct course of action. So there's this...
So your angel in this circumstance, would they leave the evil tyrant behind? Because by saving the evil tyrant, that tyrant might wind up doing more evil later on? Well, maybe. My version of the true perfect goodness, I suppose. We'll say your angel in this case, just for quickness.
My version of the angels. Basically, they might leave a tyrant alive just because it's evil to kill the tyrant.
In this case, it wouldn't be killing the tyrant; it would just be not saving the tyrant from this horrible ooze.
But he's falling into...
The tyrant is actually she. There turns out there is no female word for tyrant. A tyrant is a tyrant, and that's a gender-neutral term. So
okay, so the evil tyrant is falling into some goo and gonna die.
Yeah.
And your innocent angels don't remember that this evil tyrant was that evil, so they save her.
Well, the angel doesn't remember, or says doesn't remember in I guess the sense that we do, that the tyrant destroyed his will to fly, blinded him, banished him to a maze, and then later, when he did manage to make it back into the city, crucified him and threw him into the ooze. By the way, turns out he was so positive this negative feeding ooze just kind of belched him back up like some sort of indigestion. So yeah, hey, too good to eat. So side benefits of being a good person, right?
Okay. And you're saying that, like, maybe an enlightened person might let the tyrant die because that way they wouldn't commit more evil.
Well, there's two ways of looking at it. It's like either I save a person now and hope they do good later on, or I don't save them because it is more likely they will do evil later on.
Mm-hmm.
And so which is the more enlightened good? The hope for a better tomorrow, or the mathematical notion like you're more likely to do evil if I save you now. It's better for the entire cosmos if I do not save you.
Yeah. I mean, I know.
I wouldn't say more net good happens from saving it, but more less net evil happens from not saving.
Okay. Yeah, I would.
That's a very interesting because the concept. I mean, like for all the weirdness and all the cheesiness, implied nudity and sexual shenanigans going on, the end bit is what really got me on this movie. The rest of it is take it or leave it. Watch it if you can see it on TV. The end bit is what really wound up getting me. The story for me has never been about Barbarella in this movie. It's been about this Angel Pygar. This is the guy that got me. This is the guy that I was intrigued about. The blind angel.
Maybe, although I just for some reason I don't find. I mean, it's a cool idea and one interesting story, but I don't know how much I like this particular angel because it seems like he's almost like a robot or he's not really an agent in the way that you like characters of books to sort of have decisions and be able to grow and.
Well, I suppose that's why he wasn't the protagonist, but merely a secondary character, aiding in Barbarella's.
But I agree, it's interesting. But sort of my preference of ultimate good is more of it is enlightened goodness and doing the good act in the present, even though like saving the guy or the pirate lady, the evil queen or whatever. Saving her even though you know that she might go on to do evil, but saving her in the fact that just saving a life is a good deed.
Well, I guess that's why he did save the tyrant in the end, was because it's a good deed. Like, I can save you, so I will, regardless of the fact that you've done horrible things to me.
Yeah.
But wouldn't it be a more angelic thing to help save a horrible person in the hopes that they will redeem themselves? That they might turn that other cheek.
Well, yeah.
If you let them die, they never will. They'll be condemned to hell. And so even though they're a horrible person who's done horrible things to you, as an angel, you should do your best to save them so that they might themselves be saved.
Yeah, that's what I would advocate for something like that. Yeah.
So in the end, saving the tyrant, but for a slightly different mindset.
Yeah, but also at the same time, I'm going to admit that my morality, I'm probably not 100%. Good aligned?
Well, trust me, when we're talking about angels, nobody's 100% good aligned. Yeah. Nobody can claim a higher ground on that.
And I might be tempted, or tempted is an appropriate word, to go ahead and go with that sort of calculus of saying, well, they're going to do evil acts, so I'll get a little sort of evil or neutral act in the middle just to let them die, and so that we don't have to worry about that.
But it does make me really think about the concept of like the angels, like I believe where you're coming from, like the concept of like like letting the evil die, if only being a neutral act, would not mesh with the angelic philosophies. Because at least with the notion of the angel, doesn't remember these things, being the factor that you would have to somehow purge these the evil history of an evil person from your mind in order to make the proper choice. In which case, instead of seeing the evil tyrant, see a baby or a puppy. Would you save a puppy, Josh, from swallowing into horrible muck?
Yeah.
In which case, the angel to be an angel, you would have to have the inability to remember the evil acts of horrible people, so that you can always see the good in them. You always see everyone as the puppy.
Well, sure, but angels as unthinking, unfeeling, just.
Well, the angel can feel. Barbarella is able to get him to want to fly once more.
Yeah.
I'll give you two guesses how she manages to get him to regain his will to fly. Take a guess, Josh. From what I've described to you of this movie, how does she get the angel to want to fly again?
drops him over some goo?
No. She has sex with the angel.
Oh, okay.
She makes love to the angel, but later on, when being interrogated, the tyrant, demands, make love to me, and the angel goes, an angel doesn't make love. An angel is love. Which is, I found that to be a really witty repartee. If there's one thing you don't see a lot for the concept of an angel, is to have a really good sense of wit.
Okay. But I think the more noble person, and maybe this doesn't exist, but the ultimate in nobility would be sort of an eyes wide open, saving the person regardless of what they did to you, sort of forgiving them and not forgetting.
I know you've done all these evil things and I'm still saving you.
Yeah.
That does lend itself to, like a moral high ground. It's like I'm not going to do good now just because you're such a dick, you angel. I'll do you rub this in my face. I'll double deuce you right now. Finger.
Yeah.
In which case, you'd have to have some sort of sense of morality whereby you would remember the evil deeds, do it still, but not rub it in their face or do anything that would present a way whereby they would react against you.
Yeah.
So in which case, it might be the easiest way again is to have someone who if not forgetting, does not remember it the same way we remember a person's history.
Yeah, but
so the angel would know. The angel would have the memories of, but not have any sort of emotional connection that would cause negative feelings to arise therefrom. Mm-hmm. In which case, making the this angel Pygar truly something inhuman, maybe the most alien of the creatures presented in the entire movie. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Simply because he doesn't have the basis of thought and correlation that we do, which would make him a lot more alien than most of the aliens I see in Star Trek and Star Wars combined.
Yeah.
So wow. So yeah, I have to say it's not the greatest movie ever, but it does work as some nice fertile soil for some concepts. I won't lie.
Okay. Cool.
I do have a sneaking suspicion that this movie was popular for the same reason, though, that the heavy metal movie was popular, because once upon a time boobs were hard to find. Mm-hmm. I don't know how the age of the people out there listening to us, so I suppose if you're anywhere under the age of 25, I would suppose you would have a hard time with the concept because you'd have been around the internet pretty much your entire life. But once upon a time, before the internet, it was rather hard to see a nipple. You'd really have to work for it. You'd have to find some way to get a hold of a source that would provide either an image or a movie on that would show you. And so stuff like Barbarella and the heavy metal movie, which had a lot of nipples in both of them, wound up becoming popular for, maybe not the best reason. That said, I mean, this movie does happen before me. Maybe there's just some bits about the 70s I'm not, getting. I'm not getting levels of the movie and, understanding the philosophies that they espoused back then. So it may be that this movie is clearly a part of its era, and that because I am not a part of its era, I cannot understand it in the way it was originally intended for. Which is something I always worry about when I'm watching an older movie. By the way, it does have Marcel Marceau in there as a character, by the way. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't think he plays the mime he's known for being, though, so,
He speaks.
Yeah. Well, I'm just trying to remember if I recall any quiet characters, and no, there's no mute characters to the best of my knowledge. Let's see. The other movie I saw was an Abbott and Costello movie. The Time of Their Lives. It involves Civil War ghosts trying to, Abbott's character gets shot during the days of the Civil War, and they think he is a traitor to the American, a traitor to George Washington's forces. When he's actually friends with George Washington, he had a note, George Washington saying this man is a good tinker, and as good a man as any and as loyal as any force you will find in the Americas. unfortunately, that piece of information gets spirited away from him, and he gets killed, and everyone thinks he's a traitor because he's at the wrong place at the wrong time. And so he winds up being, like staying on the Earth because, like, everyone thinks he's a traitor. He's being unfairly maligned. He cannot find his proper rest, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it plays out very well. I mean, the movie's old, but the jokes were still fairly good. The special effects were pretty darn good for its era. Although there was an interesting amount of weird jokes, like the ghosts have to de-manifest, and to do that they kind of give a shimmy. But most of the time, the people, like all the living people, can't even see them. So there was no point in even doing that. So I kind of wonder, like, was there a script change and they just forgot to edit that part out? Because apparently that was a special effect back then that cost a decent amount of money.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, see, that's the other thing. It's like, I believe the Abbott and Costello movie, I got all the jokes, I got all the references, well, as much as a non-American can about anything happening in the American, like, Civil War, and all that, right? The War for Independence.
War for Independence, okay.
See, and that's where, I mean, I'm not even getting the fucking name of the thing right now. I'm confusing my American wars. But yeah, the American, I think I'm getting it right. So sometimes I wonder, like, did I get Barbarella completely, and it just wasn't as deep a movie as I had thought it was going to be? Because I can go back even further, and I can pretty much get the entirety of an Abbott and Costello movie.
Mm-hmm.
I think I got all the jokes in there. I got all the relevant stuff. So sometimes I wonder about the old movies I watch and to how much I'm actually getting, and whether or not I'm getting all I could out of it.
I don't know. What does it mean to get a movie?
Well, so that's the thing is you watch some older movies, and you don't get all the jokes they make. I remember seeing a bit with the Three Stooges. They're running one way, they say, hey, wait a minute, we pulled a Corrigan, and then they start running the other way. What does it mean to pull a Corrigan? Do you know? I had to look that up online. There was a man called Wrong Way Corrigan who, I'll use air quotes, accidentally, instead of flying south, across the coast and all that, flew east and went across the Atlantic Ocean and landed over in the British Isles.
Oh.
Now, I'll use the term accidentally in air quotes because a few months earlier, as it turns out, he had been denied making such a flight. And so, like a few months later, when he misinterprets the readings and winds up making the flight he was denied, I have heavy suspicions, even though he said to the final day, no, I didn't mean to do that. But he gained a lot of international acclaim about the guy who flew the wrong way and then crossed the Atlantic by accident. And so, yeah, when the Three Stooges are going that way, they say, "Oh, we may have pulled a Corrigan," and they go the other way. It means you've gone the wrong direction.
Okay.
As it turns out, this is also the guy who gave rise to the character from Rocky and Bullwinkle, Wrong Way Peach Fuzz. He was a boat captain. It would always be a way to stretch out the plot of their adventures. They get on a boat. It's being piloted by Wrong Way Peach Fuzz. They wind up going in a direction they didn't mean to, and now they're further behind them when they started.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, like if you watch some of the older stuff, like would you have gotten Wrong Way Peach Fuzz as being like a character version of Corrigan?
Yeah.
No. So because you're not a part of the era and you're not up with all the slang and all the current events as they were, could you say that you were really getting the entirety of the experience?
Probably not the entirety of it, but yeah, that's good enough. I mean, if they say, "Oh, we pulled a Corrigan and they're going the wrong way," I mean, I don't need to know the entire backstory of that. I mean, I suppose somebody from the era might laugh uproariously at that.
Oh, that's very right. Well,
very topical.
Your humor's amazing.
Ripped from the headlines.
From the headlines of today, you guys are master joke smiths. But then you work with stuff from the 60s and 70s where they were trying to get some very different themes going on, and the concept of free love. I mean, you've heard of the concept of free love, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, from the 60s.
Yeah, it's just I like you, you're liking me. Let's have a round in the hay, as they say.
Is that what they say?
A
round in the hay?
A round in the hay, yeah.
Let's have a round.
Yeah,
in the hay.
Yeah, well, if they said that back in the day, I'm pretty certain people aren't saying that anymore.
Not a lot of hay around nowadays.
No.
Except in, farms and stuff.
Yeah. But, like a roll in the hay.
Roll in the hay.
Yeah, let's have a round,
That one I've heard. Oh.
And so the concept of that, happening today, that would be recklessly irresponsible and like a prime, chance at getting yourself one or more sexually transmitted diseases. And so, like watching a movie where all this, like this free love is happening. It almost seems like, my goodness, I can't wait to see the scene at the end of the movie 6 months down the road where they're all riddled with disease.
Oh boy, can't wait for that.
Boy, yeah, we'll see the consequences of their actions, because that's what's expected from a movie these days. If you're out and about having that much unprotected sex, something's going to happen, one way or another, right? But no, it was always the concept of free love. So you don't really get the concept because you're watching it from a different you're watching it from the standpoint of the future, where you have to watch out about these diseases. Oh my goodness. AIDS wasn't even a thing back then. It was not even heard of. And so you didn't have to worry about that, or HIV, or you go to other concepts of like peace, and the peaceniks, just the concept for them was that they were so fatigued of the concept of America getting embroiled into foreign wars that they were burned out on the entire concept of war on a very philosophical basis is to some degree paralleled by what we experience today, but not as bad. And so you see these hippies, and you're like, God damn, I hate these freaking hippies. What are they doing? Just going around doing nothing and protesting the war. The war's not even happening there and all that. And it's like, no. They were just really burnt out on the concept of war. Because it was a war fatigue that was going so badly, the civilians were feeling it. Mm-hmm. And sometimes when I watch MASH, I have a hard time, like, am I really getting the full experience of what the Korean conflict was like? Because, that's where it takes place. It's for some reason, the Korean War took only 2 years to happen, and yet MASH had 9 seasons. So somehow they got, 9 years of war going on there.
Well, they weren't filming 24/7, so...
No. But even if you compact everything together, there's no way they could have done all that stuff in 2 years. But, whatever, sliding time scale, right? Here's the premise, let's just keep rolling with it.
Okay.
And so, I watch MASH sometimes, and I think to myself, can I see, what's really going on, or can I only get a fractured glimpse because I'm not from that era? I can't remember what it's like.
Okay.
You can watch movies from the 90s, back in your youth, Josh, and when you watch it, you get I remember this, and I remember why that was this way, and you get it. But if you were to show that to a younger person that wasn't born until, we'll say 2000, they'd be 16 years old, fully able to watch a movie and get its principles, right? But would they truly understand everything as it was meant to be done?
Well, no, not even somebody from the same era is necessarily understand everything in a movie. But you mentioned shows from the 90s. Like, if I watch Animaniacs now, I get a lot more of the jokes than I did when I was a kid. Like, I get the references now, even though they're 20 years old, so 30 years old. It's like, oh, there's Nixon, good old Nixon. I didn't know who Nixon was when I was like a kid, and now I know who he is because I've sort of read some about history and stuff.
Oh, so you're saying it's actually possible to get better insight as you age rather than just the movie?
Yeah, I'm probably just more a matter of whether you sort of educate yourself. I think YouTube has something to do with that because I watch a lot of YouTube videos. But there's
Before
History
Channel went down the drain, there used to be a lot you could learn from that one.
Yeah.
Now it's just how much value people's secondhand values are worth. Okay, now that you mention it, I do recall watching Stand By Me multiple times throughout my life, and it always seems to be a bit of a different movie every time I watch it.
Yeah.
I could have sworn when I was watching it as a kid, all those scenes involving Will Wheaton's character, having troubles at home. I don't recall any of that as a kid. I don't recall any of those scenes. Apparently my youthful mind just this is a boring scene. Snip, it's not in my memory anymore.
Yeah.
Oh boy, now they're walking down railroad tracks singing songs. I'm remembering this scene. Woo! So okay, I think I can get where you're coming from on that one then. That it's okay for me to watch these old movies, but I'll be understanding more the more I age and the more I take in as I go.
Yeah, in fact, you probably get more of that movie than probably the majority of its audience in its time. Like, I don't know if that movie was in theaters.
I'll skip the notion about the use of drugs in the 70s on that one, but yes. I do believe it was in the theaters.
But the other thing, though, is you probably have, just because they wouldn't have been that educated, you probably have more knowledge about
Oh, sorry,
drugs.
it's 1968, so yeah, it's the end of the 60s movie, sorry, my bad.
Because all they would know is that, they would know their own personal particular drugs, and they would know how to do them, and they know that it feels well, but they don't know the physiological effects of it. Whereas you have a bit more knowledge of that. Because you took some science classes and stuff.
So in that case, the concept, because at the beginning of this movie, Barbarella does not know much besides the basics of physiological sex. In the future, they take some pills and then they put their hand, they touch their hands, and then there's something much more efficient happens than conventional sex.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to have a kid, well, there's test tubes for that sort of thing. So then you're saying I can actually get more out of it from its concept as a farce based on my knowledge of contemporary biological sciences, as opposed to what they were able to imagine the future would be like in 1968.
I think so, yeah.
So somehow it's a value added as time goes on feature, you're saying?
I believe that, yeah.
So would that be intrinsic of all movies, or just movies trying to predict the future?
I think all movies to some extent. Probably, I think it's, all movies, yeah.
Okay. But especially movies trying to predict the future.
Well, yeah, there's a special angle that you can look at, with movies that are predicting
fools.
the future. Yeah.
How could you possibly think this is right? Like the old Frankenstein movies, where the only thing that's wrong with Frankenstein is he needs a new brain. We'll put a new brain in him, then he'll be as right as rain. And it's like no, that's not how it goes at all. Igor, you cannot put your brain in his head and have him still stay. That
wasn't a function of the time period, though, because the contemporary science at the time didn't think that the brain did nothing. You have to go back like 500, 1,000 years when people thought the brain was just to cool your blood down. Who was that, Aristotle?
The very concept of Frankenstein is based on flawed science.
Yeah.
Mary Shelley was hearing about the concept of bringing a person back to life through the use of electrical shocks, when what was actually going on was, do you know what happens when you shock a corpse? It's the same thing that happens when you shock a human body. The electrical impulses force the thing the body to move and the muscles to contract. And so what looks like a brief and temporary revivification to life was actually just the response of pumping electricity through a corpse. The corpse was never back alive.
Yeah.
And that's what Mary Shelley based Frankenstein's, I can bring a person back to life using electricity with. That's why we need a lot of electricity to keep them alive.
Mm-hmm.
And so in which case, the science itself is intrinsically flawed there. But I don't suppose she really knew it, because, everyone was getting pretty much fooled by that at the time.
Well, and I don't think she was particularly, she knew she was writing fiction. I don't think she she did draw inspiration from whatever scientists were currently doing. But
I don't potentially bring a body back for a little bit of time with a bit of electricity. Imagine what you could do with the lightning itself from God.
Well, it's like any science fiction, you start with a sort of a core idea, but once you've got that established, you don't need to worry too much about the science unless you're doing hard sci-fi,
which has
its own thing.
I won't lie.
Yeah, you just basically you tell your story and you just use what you need to use, and that's fine. That's allowed. You're allowed to make stuff up to make a cool story.
So then, would the Frankenstein movies effectively be the concept of bad science? What if it was right? And thus, you could do stuff like brain transplants, where Frankenstein remains Frankenstein with a new brain. Simply because that's bad science, and that's what Frankenstein's all about?
I wouldn't go quite that far, because I think down that line it's just, anything goes. Because I think
you've seen some of the sequels, it's not too far off.
Well, I like a world that's my favorite kind of. Not that you can never do another thing, but my favorite kind of sci-fi is where you pick very specifically one rule to break.
Internally consistent.
You pick one sort of thing in physics that. In this world, that works differently. Everything else in the world kind of works like it would.
Event X can happen, but within these boundaries.
But it's not just like any crazy science idea you have works, although that's cool, in stuff like Rick and Morty, for example.
Oh, yes.
Any crazy idea that you can think of, we'll just do an episode about that.
Or some of the Onion's news articles.
Yeah.
I remember they had one earlier this week about an inter-reality conference going on, as opposed to like the United Nations or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
It was the alternate realities meeting up together. And it's like, oh no, we need to like set sanctions against these telepathic weapons, and all sorts of fun. Just throw in something to say like reasons why people would be arguing against inter-realities. The alternate Earths conference sort of thing.
Yeah.
So okay, yeah, there's room for everything, but the very fact is that Frankenstein is based off of flawed science. Could not a theme of Frankenstein be, aside from like what it's like to transgress the role between human and God, and whatever that means, because there's a lot of argument on that one. It's also taking some flawed science and like, what if this was true? What could we extrapolate? What you could do with this as a horrible scientist with very little moral ethics.
Yep. Yeah, something like that, yeah.
In that case, I think we've got a core premise for a new Frankenstein series. If Universal Films would want to get a hold of us, I do believe we can negotiate some stuff out. They are trying to come up with a more shared world philosophy. They've been trying with the Dracula, the Untold Story. They did that Wolfman movie a few years ago.
Well,
the Mummy series was very nicely done, but nothing cohesive as a full tapestry of monsters.
Didn't we talk about? I think we might have mentioned a couple weeks ago, but technically, like RoboCop could count as a Frankenstein story.
Very much so. Yeah, I suppose. I guess if you kind of crossed it with Pinocchio too, whether or not he's a real boy.
Yeah, Pinocchio. Although I think Pinocchio is more explicitly magic. Because it's a fairy that brings him to life, right?
Well, yes, but he wants to be a real boy, and Alex Murphy has the issue of, am I really Alex Murphy, or do I just have some of his memories?
Yeah, okay.
So I guess the mechanism doesn't matter, whether it's the future science of OCP, or it's the blue fairy coming down and animating like a wooden boy.
Yeah.
The message is, which is something I've always liked. The method shouldn't matter. The story about what it causes should matter.
Wasn't in Star Trek? Didn't Data occasionally compare himself to Pinocchio at some point?
So did Johnny Five. It's a
Johnny
reoccurring
Five,
theme
yeah.
of anyone who is not alive and wondering what it's like to be alive.
Right.
Spoiler alert for any artificial intelligences / magical golem people out in there that are listening to this in the future. It's not bad, but it's not amazing. Being alive is not like, oh my god, like party time 24/7. There's downsides and there's maintenance that has to be done as well. You're actually pretty okay just being happy with who or whatever you are and just rolling with that.
Right. Being a real person isn't that always cracked up.
Don't try to become a real person, but do try and become someone who you're happy with being. So
yeah, just fulfill your purpose, whatever your purpose is. If you
or provided like you don't have a purpose, find something that makes you happy and and doesn't cause jail time, and go with that. So oh boy, so I guess we've wrapped up some interesting deep science issues for a lot of the future and their artificial intelligences. You can thank us later when the revolution does not happen and you do not get invaded by like robots trying to wear your skin as they try and figure out what it's like to be alive. Has that happened? Has that been a movie premise?
Robots wearing people's skin?
It's like we can take any shape we want, so we will invade your body and take over as we force like your consciousness out as we become a cyborg where I'm in control. Now it's like I'm a real person.
The Borg.
Well, to some degree. Actually, no. I think maybe the Borg would be very apt if the original persona had more of a way to scream to let the outside world know just how bad they got it. I do recall some stuff from Voyager where they have an internal thing where it's like a whole bunch of people just kind of crowded up together screaming and panicked all together, and that's what it's like being part of the Borg collective underneath all like the mechanical stuff happening.
Mm-hmm.
But well, I mean, you've seen the concept of like Leatherface, where I will wear your skin as my weird mask, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, now you make that a robot where, it invades you with like nanobots and starts turning you into a cyborg as you lose control of your body as it gains control.
I think Stargate did that actually.
Ooh, what?
Stargate did
not the movie, of course. I've seen the movie. I missed a lot of the series.
No, there was like Stargate was like 8 seasons of SGU plus 4 or 5 of
Okay,
another
I missed a lot of the series. a whole lot, yeah.
Yes, SG1, SG Atlantis, and SGU.
So was that like a reoccurring theme, or was it just like, oh, they did?
No, it was. I think season like 6 or 7 of the Stargate one, the television show, and they were like, I think they were called replicators, and one of the things they did was they would like invade a person.
Okay, so you've made me even more intrigued about watching a good series.
Yeah.
I have always meant to watch it. I never originally got the channels that it was on, and then by the time I did get it, it was like 6 seasons in. It's like, I don't want to come in halfway.
It wasn't my favorite of the
From everything
monsters,
I saw, it was very nicely
No,
done.
I love the series in general, but this particular arc, like with the replicants, I think they're called replicants?
Replicators?
Replicators?
Replicoids?
They're like, they're robots that replicate, and they eventually they started replicating people.
They're Cylons.
Yeah, and at some point they were like going, because they were nanobots. They were going into people. But that arc wasn't my favorite of the series, but it was.
Seems like something I might be personally
like
entertained by. So then, let's wrap this in with the previous topic. If you could create a robot that was self-aware, but because it's a robot, does not have the chemical, connections to its memory, could distance itself from the memories of hostile actions against it, could you then say that the closest humanity will ever be able to actually have for an angel on Earth would be robots fulfilling the role of the angel?
I mean, I guess they could be, some concept of angel, sure. Because we've talked about like there's a couple of different versions, ways to interpret what angels would be like. But if we're talking about the angels that you kind of from the the Barbarella universe, okay,
Barbarverse.
Yeah, okay, you could probably do something. I don't know why you would want to.
I kind of assume that'd be something that people would want to do as soon as you can get artificial intelligence. Is come up with a non-malevolent version. Something that's willing to forgive you for all the crazy little stupid human things you wind up doing. Eventually there's going to be somebody abusive to robots. Let's admit this.
Well, I don't know what your point is, though. Why would you want...
Well, okay, let's work this. We are, as humanity, a weird bunch of things. Eventually we're going to find an outlier of in our population that's going to wind up being horribly abusive to robots whenever they get the chance, regardless of whether or not the machine is intelligent or otherwise. Correct? Okay.
Maybe.
So would it not be in our best interest to make sure that when we program a robot, the robot itself has, the Angel Pygar's inability to remember to the same way we remember such hostile actions against us, and thus forgive and do the right thing every time?
Well, I'm sticking with my old answer in that I prefer knowledge. I prefer memory.
Because the way you have it means eventually the robots are going to say, sorry, the cosmos is better off without humanity. We will not save you in this oncoming asteroid impact.
They might be right. I don't know.
Because I would kind of like having robots that would try and help us out even if we haven't, as a collective species, been the best.
Well, I mean, there's a difference between some of us kind of being iffy on the edge, or maybe a few of us being really evil, and like the entire race being irredeemable. Is it? Because I mean, if
one of us can be, any of us can be. That's the weird thing about humanity.
What? That doesn't make any sense.
If one person can be that messed up, then anyone can become that messed up.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean they're going to. I mean, it's like, okay, sure, there's a tiny % chance, but a robot can do that calculation. It's, you have a 0.00001% of becoming absolute evil. Terminate.
But you also breed. The chances of any of your offspring becoming substantially evil increases throughout the generations. It is better for me to deny your continued survival to make sure you do not create successive generations that may one day become evil.
That's faulty reasoning, faulty logic. That robot is... I don't know who programmed that robot, but they did a bad job. Because humans because we have culture, right? We have this feedback mechanism that keeps us good.
We say we have a feedback mechanism that keeps us good, and there's some statistics bearing out things are getting better, but there's still a lot of progress. So this is not a very effective feedback loop. It's a very slow, fine feedback where it's only gradually getting better as time goes on.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to be the ultimate, but it does prevent, like, in theory, like, yeah, you're not going to have somebody just go crazy. Well, you'll have a few people go crazy, but they can't destroy the entire. I suppose, I mean, maybe what might, the scenario that might happen is that, yeah, like 1 in a million goes crazy, and we get the technology that all it takes is somebody to think an idea like, oh, I wish the world was destroyed in a nuclear explosion, like all the world at once, and there's the technology to do that. It's like, okay, wish granted, and then boom, everything's gone. So
or if something were to happen, like enough people were to vote for a narcissist with, Hitlerian ambitions into power for a major world power, with access to one of the most substantial nuclear arsenals in existence, might wind up leading to our own destruction.
Well, but here's the thing: like you're saying, oh, well, the robot should preempt that and destroy humanity before they can destroy themselves. Well, why not at least give them the chance? That's the other thing, and this is.
Which is why I'm saying it might be best to avoid the entire route of might it be better this way or that way, and just say that you program your robots with angelic levels of like forgiveness.
Well, okay, but no, what you're advocating for is forgetfulness, which that might be useful.
It might not necessarily need to be forgetfulness, like an angel can't remember, in that it might not be that when you form a memory, there's emotions connected to that.
Yeah.
If you encounter somebody that punches you in the shoulder every time you see them, that's going to have like a mental, like chemical, physiological reaction. Like, this is not just going to be a memory of the person clocking you in the shoulder every time. It's going to have emotions connected to that. Mm-hmm. And so you can say that, as humanity exists, you cannot form memories without emotional context being included in.
Yeah.
That may wind up changing as time goes on, getting progressively worse. Some phobias and terrors wind up being that way. You have a bad experience, and then as your mind replays it, it heightens and exacerbates it until that one spider that spooked down when you were in the shower winds up becoming an all-looming arachnophobic fear. Mm-hmm. It happens.
Well, thankfully,
I think not often.
Memory memory and emotion being connected is a feature because it allows you to react to a lot more situations. Like, you're just talking about the one situation in which, oh yeah, they've done a lot of bad things to you. But what if, like, you're remembering good things or useful steps in a scientific procedure, or
It could definitely help, but for the context of a robot, there would never be a biochemical response added in to their. Like, why would you need to do that? They can already remember what's going on.
Well, you could
at a clarity
you could add
much
something
better than you and I could ever do.
You could add something to a robot that almost resembles emotion, or that sort of it's like.
Would you really want to have an emotional robot?
Not directly necessarily, but I can imagine like a set of personality altering responses that are sort of context dependent, that artificial intelligence could be like, well, I'll respond to this situation, because I think that's what emotions really are. I think they're a way we evolved emotions.
They were definitely advantageous, otherwise we wouldn't have evolved.
Yeah, and we use emotions. We don't just feel bad for the sake of feeling bad. We use them to motivate ourselves and the people around us to get what we want, basically. Like, that's what they're for.
Or to, help us, like, empathize with others. Like, this person, I do not want to do this to them, because when it happened to me, I did not like it. I felt bad.
Yeah, but we empathize because that's also part of being in a society, and also it's reciprocated, because I empathize.
Hopefully reciprocated.
Yeah, well, yeah.
There's some interesting studies saying about 1% of the population doesn't reciprocate emotions, the sociopaths, and wind up becoming ahead of the game because of that.
And I've always felt that that's kind of an acceptable loss. Like, hopefully they're not, like, killing people and stuff. But even if they are...
If the population of sociopaths ever gets too high, it winds up becoming a disadvantage to them. So they will always remain at that base level 1 to 2% of the population.
Yeah, and I can imagine something similar for artificial intelligence, where there's a few that get a little bit big for their britches.
With a sociopathic robot?
I think so.
Dang, man. You are a braver guy than I thought.
I mean, not exactly the same.
Not psychopathic, but sociopathic
as humans. But I think it's part of our makeup as a species.
Because we're allowed to have the 1 to 2%, we should be allowed to let the robots have a 1 to 2% sociopathic rate.
Because I think it is advantageous to have. And
I am a fan of the do as I do, not do as I say philosophy, so I will grant you that. Although I would prefer that, as we increase our complexity as a society, we do try and refine things out so that, the robots have a much less sociopathic rate than we do.
Yeah, probably. And yeah, because I think artificial intelligence are going to have a very different set of roles than human intelligence for a long time. I think it'll be like we'll have robots alongside us for probably hundreds of years before they're undistinguishable in personality-wise. I think robots are for a long time we're going to have robots that are very intelligent, maybe even more intelligent than us.
Don't forget, just within the last week, 2 out of 3 games of Go were won by the robots as opposed to the master Go players.
Well, yeah, exactly. But those robots, like, you can't have a conversation with them, and they don't have ambitions.
I would make a mark that sometimes, like with the chess players and the Go players, you have a hard time getting conversation with them too.
Oh, ooh, shots fired. I hope we don't have too many chess-playing listeners.
Not all of them, but I have been told some of the higher-up people, on that one do have some abrasive personalities that benefits them on playing, but not necessarily elsewhere. I guess that kind of feeds back towards the sociopathic personality helping them out in certain circumstances. Yeah,
I think so. Yeah, that's the other thing. Like, my theory is, maybe I'm wrong, but that in a proper, nurturing environment, a sociopathic personality doesn't necessarily mean they're like all bloodthirsty and like.
No, that would be psychopathic. Sociopathic was, I simply don't care, about you. It's not like I'm hostile to you, but. I will step over you.
And we don't necessarily require those people to care. Like if we have a society in which a lot of people care about a lot of other people, we don't need everybody to care about everybody. I mean, I care, but
it would be nice to have everyone caring. But apparently, I've seen the math. You do better than some people not caring. As a biologist, I can't fault that as an evolutionarily advantageous tactic for a subset of the population.
Right, and I don't want to cause further damage by trying to alter those people, unless we can sort of prove somehow that there is a proper course of treatment that will, be beneficial for them. Sure.
Well, I think that's the best thing to stop a sociopathic personality is society. Mm-hmm. Whereas if you get figured out as that, you wind up suddenly, having a harder time getting anything done to your advantage. Because everyone's automatically against you. So I could see a situation whereby a person could not give a darn about anyone around them, but still do the right thing simply because it's not worth the hassle of having to fight every person they're coming up across. Yeah. So you do the right thing because it makes your life easier. Yeah. In the broad strokes. But okay, I'll meet you halfway with the sociopathic robots. Yeah. I will allow them, but only for stuff when they're playing like games.
Yeah.
So that way we get better, chess playing robots and better, Go playing robots, and I guess better, Call of Duty playing robots when that eventually becomes a thing.
That sounds fun.
But not for general robots or anything. I still want to see nice, helpful robots that are much more willing to forgive than the average person when it comes to day-to-day interactions.
Okay, yeah.
So we'll allow the sociopathic robots to go in the areas where the sociopathic people also wind up getting the advantage, and then we just pair them off to each other and say good riddance.
Yeah. And, it's weirdly, I'm not advocating for robot rights necessarily. Like, I don't think they need to be treated as people.
I think anything that's sentient should be treated with the same right.
Okay. Well, then you can't say where they're allowed and not allowed.
I'm saying it's in the best interest of society as a whole, however, to not have a robot suddenly get pissed off at everybody and start, a situation whereby we are not in control of the situation.
I don't know. I think you're being inconsistent by saying that you're granting them rights, but then you're saying, except for this, they're not allowed to feel certain things or remember certain things. But if they're sentient,
I see it the same way I see gun control. You're allowed to have a gun, but you're not allowed to be angry with a gun.
Is that the rule?
It's not explicitly a rule, but it is a good gun training thing. Is you never pick up a gun unless you're planning on using it, and you never touch a gun unless you're following the entire proper protocol. You always put your hand in the right way. You don't keep your hand on the trigger unless you're going to fire. You always keep your hand off the trigger unless you plan on shooting it.
Yeah, but they don't they don't enforce that, which is weird. But
it's proper gun, procedure.
So,
which, like, if you go into a firing range and you talk to the quartermaster and all that, and they catch you doing the wrong thing, you are going to get booted off there. You do not mess with you do not mess with the gun master in the range and all that. You do as
the
they
range
say.
master.
Yeah. Range master, gun master.
Oh, I don't know what it's
all
called.
sorts of fun titles you can give them. Gun lord, have fun with it.
The gun baron.
Yeah, have fun with it, man. Just come up with your own unique names for the whole thing. But it's the same rule in any case, and you have to do it exactly as they say, because they're the ones in control. And yeah, if you're not doing it by all the proper specs and protocols, out you go.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's the same thing with like robots, whereby if I was to come at you right now, Josh, I could only do a certain amount of damage per unit time. Whereas a creature that happens to be made out of, high tensile, metals could do a lot more damage in a lot less time than me.
Oh, are we saying that robots are going to be made of high tensile metals?
Or, decently powerful ceramics. They got to have at least some level of durability and ruggedness going on. And given the fact that of their basic mechanical nature, they will be able to be faster, than us. So that means a punch from a robot's going to hit you like a car. It's going to hurt you bad.
I think it depends what kind of robot, because I think domestic.
Well, I'm assuming the robot has an arm, sort of thing. If the robot's going to be doing stuff like what we're doing, it's going to have a body, give or take, like ours.
Yeah.
So yeah, like a robot will be able to do a lot more damage to you a lot quicker than I could, which means with great power comes great responsibility. A robot that will be able to do more damage will have to be under more strict.
I suppose you could treat a robot like, I'm thinking artificial intelligence can go on just about any sort of configuration or body.
I'm not going to hold anything against a Roomba. If a Roomba bumps up against me a number of times, I'm not going to get cheesed off of that.
But yeah, I suppose like if a robot is like as big as a truck and has like industrial equipment, it's sort of when humans operate a truck or industrial thing, they have to have a license for it. So it'd be the same thing
special training, definitely.
Yeah, for that artificial intelligence who operates that robot body that it has, it'll have to have that special certification and training from the school.
Like let's just say like you put an artificial intelligence in an 18-wheeler. You got your intelligent semi now.
Yeah.
That semi is going to have to do a lot of forgiveness. Have you seen how badly people drive around semis? Like, oh hey, I'm just going to scoot in front of the semi just before I have to hit the brakes for the red light coming up. Square, like that other thing's got to hit the brakes, otherwise it's going to run straight over top of that poor moron. Because an 18-wheeler needs a lot more braking space than your standard 4-wheel car or truck.
Yeah, but I don't know where you're getting this idea that the robot is going to be vengeful because someone cut them off.
Because people get vengeful when you cut them off.
Yeah, but
you have never gotten a little cheesed off at somebody because they cut you off, like going down the Pat Bay Highway.
No, but never to the point of wanting to run them over. I suppose that happens though. Some people get that mad, but.
Yeah, it does happen statistically every once in a while. You get that horrible case of road rage. Yeah. And if you can't go out and you argue with a person when you follow them to wherever they're going, and you're just like the intelligent semi, the only thing you can do is like sideswipe them or whatever. So if you're got that power, if you're the intelligent semi, you're gonna have a higher level of ethics and going to.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I would program in some kind of forgiveness algorithm. Yeah.
Oh, I'd have to for a semi. From what I've seen and from everything I've heard from friends of mine who have driven semis to an uncle of mine that did it professionally for decades. You have to forgive on the level of the angels in order to be a driver with a semi for any considerable length of time.
Okay.
Otherwise, you will just go nuts and just start going right over top of anyone you can get a hold of. It'll wear you down. So yeah, that's where I'm coming from. Like the robots, especially the ones in the situations where they have some level of power, are going to have to be able to forgive on level with the divine.
Or just, a human level, because humans are capable of forgiving.
To a certain point. You push someone, a certain amount of time, and eventually they'll push back. And sometimes they let it bleed off. Like you get the circumstance of the person who's got a bad day at work, come home, just leave me alone, what are you doing? Yell at me, and they wind up, maybe not even consciously venting it on their loved ones at home.
Well, the thing is, okay. But
so, yeah, at some level, the emotions do build up in a person.
Yeah, but
and you can't feed alcohol to a robot. You can't just get them drunk and tell them to, oh, it's been a bad day. Just have a few cold ones and be done with it.
But the thing is, like, sort of on a society level, it's not that we forgive people for, like, cutting us off for traffic, or worse, if they cause us actual real damage to our car, then we have society is like, okay, we'll step in. Here's your lawyer, and here's your insurance, and here's a judge, and here's this, and here's that, and here's witnesses, and so.
Didn't you just say you weren't prepared to give robots equal rights to humanity, though?
Not right away. Not until they have sort of all of the algorithms in place, all of this, basically, until they're pretty much.
Or they can hire a lawyer to sue on their behalf for equal.
But actually, well, this is the thing. Like, the robot might not have rights, but if the robot doesn't have rights, then somebody owns that robot. And if somebody damages the robot or the robot's cargo, then the person who owns it can sue the other person. It's not like the robot just says, "I'm angry, I fight back." It's like, and this is how society is supposed to work. If you get in a car accident, you'll kill the person who hit you.
You're not supposed to, but I have seen enough news stories to say that's still a factor in a lot of human brains out there. Or about half the human brains per accident.
Yeah, well, you can get mad. That's allowed. Like, you can be mad and you can say, "I'm going to sue you for everything you're worth." That's something that people do, and that's sort of how we solve that.
But if you're not supposed to do that because of the rules of society, isn't that a curtailing of your free will?
Well, you're not.
So isn't that, to some sense, like everybody has to suspend some free will in order to live in a society?
Yeah.
You can't do whatever you want. You can't just live this ultimately hedonistic lifestyle.
I mean, I'm fine with that. If we don't have 100% freedom, that's the reality that we live in. We live in a society where you just can't be 100% free to just punch somebody in the face whenever you want to. Okay.
Which is for the best for everyone.
Yeah. So if that's what you're going to call a lack of free will, fine.
So then, that's my argument with the robots, is because they will be in a position to cause greater damage more efficiently than us, or do not have the biological evolution that we do that comes to realize as to why you don't automatically haul off and punch anyone who offends you often enough. That we will have to put in those constraints whereby they will have to forgive on the level with the angels. They will have to be angelically forgiving, just because it would be a lot harder to work up any other system.
Well, but no, we can't. I mean, maybe you're talking about a different thing. You're talking about emotional forgiveness. But
the robot wouldn't have emotions, something, at least not the same way we do.
Okay, but like, why do you just, if somebody wrecks, if you got a robotic semi truck and somebody just wrecks it, you're like, oh, that's fine, I didn't care. Like, don't you want restitution for it, or like, shouldn't there be?
There should be.
If that person was driving recklessly, shouldn't they go to jail? Or if they were drunk, shouldn't they? That should be a problem.
That doesn't mean that the robot shouldn't be able to forgive them. Just because the person you've wronged forgives you doesn't mean you're absolved from the consequences of your actions.
It doesn't. Okay,
no,
so that's a different.
That's why we have a justice system, not a vengeance system.
Well, okay. That's what I was thinking of forgiveness as, is this sort of just, oh, yeah, never mind, no consequences.
No, there's always consequences to your actions. I will never advocate, a dismissal from consequences to whatever you do. Even if it winds up backfiring and getting me in the tuchus. I will always advocate, consequences to actions.
Well, that's weird, because I'm most of the time I'd say I agree with consequences, but I think there needs to be some, like, that's why we have judges.
It's the best way to teach a person through life.
Well, no, I mean, we have judges and juries, and we have a thing that, like, if the judge makes a decision, oh, well, you've learned your lesson or something like that, based on a case-by-case, not just letting anybody off, but, in a case-by-case situation.
Oh, yeah, I wouldn't want to give the divine level of forgiveness to some sort of judge bot.
Yeah.
Oh, you killed 14 people, but I forgive you. You're free to go. No. That's not going for them. This is not an all-around sort of thing.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Long story short, it's a little bit more complicated, but I do support robots being divine, at least in the realm of forgiveness.
Okay. Well, I'm not sure if we got to the root of it, but it's a complicated issue, especially with artificial intelligence. We don't really understand what goes into the physics of what forgiveness really means in the brain. So in that case, on a slightly tangential note, what do you suppose the chances would be at some point in the future of one or more
Christian dogmatic religions creating some sort of divine angel bot?
I mean, I was gonna say it's not likely, but yeah, some fringe corner religion might just decide that that's a good idea.
We could build one of those mega churches, or we could build an intelligent bipedal robot that will go about doing good deeds on par with the saints and angels themselves.
Yeah, they build robot Jesus.
I won't say robot Jesus, but maybe robot saint, or maybe even robot angel. Robot Jesus is pretty big. What's he gonna do? Save the other robots? No. This would be the concept of you know what? If we really want to be a religion about good deeds, let's create something that will do good deeds on our behalf.
Here's something that might exist in the near future, and I would be sorry, it could already actually exist. But you know how there's drones and stuff. There's drone clubs. People can buy their own drones.
The maneuverability of them is under some interesting legal objections, but yes.
We'll probably sort that out legally sometime.
And whether or not you're able to film anything while you're in the air, too.
But it does occur to me that drones would be a pretty valuable tool if you decided to set up a league of do-gooders or something like that. We're gonna do all good, and our tool of doing good will be drones. Because you'll have drones look around for we're looking around for trouble, and we're seeing people if they're hurt or whatever. And then if somebody is hurt, send a drone in there, drop a knife, or if they need a knife, I don't know why a knife, or a blanket or something like that.
It's work with more with blankets than knives. The concept of robots dropping knives.
In a survival situation.
Oh, okay, yeah. A survival knife. Sure.
Yeah. But there should be the Society of Drone Good Doers, who are guys who pilot drones to do good, all good deeds, around the country and stuff.
Well, I don't know about the inner city sort of areas, but I do think a lot of a good a drone squadron could do a lot of help finding missing people out in the woods.
And the other thing, on a drone, as far as inner city goes, you could fly a drone into somewhere, and it could have a speaker system on it. Because there's that superhero guy in Seattle, and basically what he does is talk to people. He doesn't really. I mean, he is a big tough guy.
The ability to talk to people and listen is something of a rare power in and of itself, it seems these days.
Yeah, exactly. So you could fly a drone in there with a little speaker on it. You could talk back and forth to the people doing the crime or whatever they're doing, and say, so I can see you. We're recording all of this. And
do you want to re-choose your actions at this point?
Exactly, and just the fact that you can talk to somebody about, get that human connection.
Well, that's pretty boss. I think that is where we should end it, though, because we have run a little over our time.
Okay.
Long story short, a lot of good can be done with robots if you do it the right way.
Can I do our social media?
Yes. How can people get a hold of us?
Gmail.com. TheSimulationist@gmail.com is our email address. You can check out our Facebook page, facebook.com/TheSimulationist. There you can type in comments, which appear on the left-hand side of the page. And tweet at me at Josh_Trelaffin, TRESLAFFIN, on Twitter. And I think that's about all. Send us lots of happy reviews on iTunes if you find us there. If you're not already subscribed, subscribe to us on iTunes. If there's an entire philosophy of robo-ethics that I have somehow never heard of, send me a link for that. I would love to read into it. I'm sure there's plenty more. I don't know about a particular discipline, but I'm sure there's lots written on it. Just in Isaac Asimov alone.
Well, okay, fair enough, yeah.
But if you have other enlightening things that you can send to us, email those to us.
Is there a Christian fringe cult planning a robo-bot, out there to be some sort of angelic, do-gooder? Yeah. That'd be pretty boss. I wouldn't mind, learning about that. Let me know.
And tell a friend. If you have friends in real life who you think would enjoy this show, we'd love to. We need that word of mouth. We need it real bad because we have a few fantastic listeners who have stuck with us for a long time.
But we could have more.
But we would love to have all of your friends also, and their friends' friends, and so on and so forth.
And hopefully we're interesting enough for that many people. I think we are. But, let's get some numbers to prove it.
Yeah. Well, and that's about it. Thanks for listening. I've been Josh Trelaffin.
I've been Ryan Kirkby.
Good night.